Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have the adventurer, Brian Huff, president of Adventure Lighting. That's right, newly elected board member, tight race, won it. I think he had 51% of the vote or something like that. I think there's a recount. There's a controversy about it. We got to recount the votes.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's some kind of crazy cut. No, I'm just kidding. No, there's no controversy. It was done by Monkey Chimp or whatever that thing is online, so we know who voted. So it's all good. But before we do, Greg, who is this episode sponsored by?
It's Energy Focus, man.
Come on, man. Get focused. The original. ENERGYFOCUS.com. That's energyfocus.com. So original, Greg.
Yeah, and we're talking about their end focus product and something original. And we're finding as lighting distributors, people like choice. They want choice. They want choice maybe now, and maybe they want it in the future as well. With an end focus, you keep your fixture, change the tube. You put a switch on the wall. You keep all the additional or existing wiring you have, change the tubes, bypass the ballast. You get flicker free, color tuning, dimming, all built into the tube itself. How nice is that?
If we can't sell color tuning, which is similar to dimming, forget about health effects, forget about everything else. Like the simple energy focus, tunable wall switch has a dimmer, has a tuner on the wall right beside each other. You change the light level, you change the color of the lamps. So easy, so original. Let's go, industry. Get that energy focus out there. ENERGYFOCUS.com. That's right. Jimmy Tunable's in charge down there. That's what we got to start with. Let's get this tunable lighting out there. Choice matters. All distributors know that the customer wants choice. Of course, Energy Focus is a member, and Brian Huff's on the board, and a longtime member. I think a founding member, Adventure Lighting, of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. He'll tell us in a minute. He was at a convention when he was a kid, sometime in the late 80s or early 90s. But before you leave, folks, before you stay for the rest of the show, go to NEILD.org. What's happening, Brian Huff?
Not a lot. Just living the lighting dream, I guess.
That's turned into a bit of a nightmare, Greg Ehrich.
Oh, you guys caught the sarcasm. Good. Yeah. It's been quite a year.
It has. It's actually been 2 years. Most people are in like a weird pandemic mindset. It's actually been 2 years, but almost 2 years. So you're in Iowa. What's the business like right now for you, for your supply business? Tell us a little bit about what's happening with that.
It really hasn't been that bad. We've slowed down on, probably the basic stuff like everybody else. The panels, the LED tubes, that kind of stuff have slowed down. But it hasn't been as bad as what I'm hearing in other industries and around the country. So it's slowed us down a little bit, but like I said, not that bad. So what about you guys? What do you see?
Well, first of all, I asked the questions. Greg,
yeah.
Greg, I'll let you answer.
I'm here to learn too.
Definitely. What I think was fun, and it's 100% true, is you said the basic items like panels and tubes. That's basic now for lighting, right? Isn't that funny?
Right.
When you think about where it's been, and that's what it's at now, is like, yeah, an LED tube is our probably number one selling SKU. Maybe fluorescent's still up there, but it's overtaking it. So from a supply side on our standpoint, yeah, I think it's been relatively steady, surprisingly, but the business has gone down a little bit from what it was a couple of years ago. But there's different avenues that we're attempting to find and work into, and one thing I'm kind of surprised is we're becoming more of a distributor than I've ever thought we are. Maybe I'm starting to figure out what a distributor is.
Exactly.
Because I've been like a hybrid of everything for a while. Like I'm out there like selling to the end user, selling the project, selling the labor, subbing it out, doing everything. And now it's like, okay, as a distributor, your actually job is to go sell product. Find different people to sell product to. You don't always have to sell to the end user. There's other people out there. I'm figuring that out.
Yeah, what's weird for me is the biggest thing I've noticed is that we're getting tons. The pandemic started, and we're getting tons of online orders from homeowners. Weird as heck. And it's like packaging up 4 to 6 lamps for homeowners. That's it's a lot more work. We spend a lot of time entering data for smaller orders. So somehow we've segued or parlayed ourselves into a position where we're selling a lot more orders, but the value of the orders is less. And now we're working towards changing that, doing some things. You're always in business, you're always trying to innovate and this kind of thing. But yeah, so it's been a wild ride actually the last 18, 19 months. Except that the only problem for me is that it's not that much fun because the thing about COVID is that it's super lame.
It's you can't really go out and do anything, right?
No,
Well,
it's so
it's gotten
lame.
better. It's gotten better.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so the supply side's kind of shifted for us and it's changed a little bit, but you know what? I just feel blessed that I'm still in business. Like you said, there's so many people that got hammered or out of business, so
I'd tell you what, the story I was telling when you said the F word. So when shit hit the fan
Mhm.
in uh, in March of 2020, I was kind of telling our guys here, like, I God, I can't see this this dragging on for months and months and months, and as long as we're back to normal by September, November, into the fall, I think we'll be just fine. And here we are a year after that prediction,
Mm.
and yeah, I'm pretty pleased that we've been able to keep the doors open, still turn a small profit, and hopefully there's better times ahead. So
Well, let me ask you, project wise, you guys, you're in Des Moines, right?
right.
Des Moines, what, a million people, something like that?
No, I think the metro area is like 500,000.
Okay. Are there many projects left on 500,000? Is there many? How much conversion to
So
LED do you guys have?
I still think there's quite a bit out there because we're still selling a fair amount of fluorescent stuff. We still move quite a bit of T12, to be honest. Um,
Nice.
the thing that we don't really get involved as a company in major bid new construction stuff, which I think has been a big deal. But I also think that's going to slow down quite a bit coming up. So we've kind of insulated ourselves from that part of the business, and we've found that there just isn't any margin to make in it. And if anything goes wrong, we're not a big enough company to take a hit on it.
Mm.
So we found a little niche in the smaller projects, the law offices and property management, that kind of stuff. And we've got a pretty big project going right now that's going to carry us through the end of the year pretty well. Um, would I like to see more small projects? Yeah, but we're surviving.
You know what's so funny? Greg, just before we move on to small projects, I tell the project managers, I got three of them out there. All they do is lighting projects, and three people, whatever. It's not a huge company, but you know what? I love the $5,000 to $20,000 deal. I love that range.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what it is. It's super like we'll do a $80,000 deal where there's like 10 companies bidding on or fighting for the project. We'll make more on a $19,000 deal.
Hmm.
Right.
Where a little
Not
bit
as
of
much hassle.
redesign. It's a little bit smaller. I don't know what it is. I love that range. That's like a power zone where it's $5,000 in labor, maybe $11,000 in materials or whatever.
Hmm.
That's a nice sweet spot where you're
Yeah.
dealing with a business owner. It's a one-off thing. He's been your customer buying lamps from you for years or whatever, and you go in there and you fix his lighting and you make a nice margin of profit.
You really fly under the radar of the big
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
companies too.
Yeah, and it's market based. Like you got to know your market. So
Hmm.
nobody's aiming from you. Like nobody's aiming for that Des Moines $20,000 deal market from outside
No.
of Des Moines. It's all yours. I
Hmm.
love that. I love that. Sorry, Greg, I interrupted you though.
No, that's good. So speaking of the market, what are you guys doing primarily? Are you doing fixtures? Are you doing tubes? Let's just say that, or replaceable light bulbs, or what is the primary
Yeah,
choice in Des Moines?
it's mostly right now probably mostly tubes.
Yeah.
Um, it's fixtures to a lesser degree, but our vendors that come in here want to sell a lot of fixtures, and I understand that, but it's mostly replacement tubes for us.
Got it. Are you finding that customers request a brand when it comes to LED tubes? Or are they not getting into that with you?
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
I know we've had this conversation in the past before, but
Mhm.
we're still on the road of type A tubes as opposed to B. We've had a couple problems in our market with somebody putting a fluorescent tube into a type B that took out a floor of computers at an insurance company here in town.
Oh,
And I don't know, how it happened, but we try to steer people away from it, and we've been reasonably successful doing that. So,
You know what's
good.
interesting about that is you missed the whole flicker problem. So, Greg is liable for migraine headaches
It's
all over the state of Minnesota.
every time I turn on the podcast, it's flicker, 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 right?
Yeah, and that's what's funny. Like it's something that's important and still not quite being as taken off like it should in the industry. I still see a majority of projects that take place don't even put that into account. Don't factor that in
Hmm. Hmm.
A flicker?
until, yeah. Like still, most of the Type B tubes out there. I mean, the tube might happen to be flicker free or something like that. That's going into a lot of these jobs, but majority of the ones I see and the stuff that gets quoted out and proposed is still not considered a flicker-free lamp. That makes sense.
Hmm.
We got to get the end users thinking about that more. I know that's something we talk about as a strategy and everything, and it makes a lot of sense. And really, what it's going to have to come down to is our buddies to DLC to say, that's the only way you
Yeah.
can get the rebate.
Well, you forget
Hmm.
about our buddies at the DLC. I love selling ballasts. There's nothing like shipping cases of ballasts, brother. I love shipping cases of ballasts all day long,
It's not
brother.
the worst, right?
Yeah. So,
Um,
I mean, there's something to that, and plus, having that control in front of it, like you said, not having line voltage at the socket. There's something to that, man. That like you said, that was a financial issue. It wasn't, here's what I say: there's no emergency if there's no first responders. That's what I always tell my people. This guy's really upset or something happened. The computers are out, right? Is there any police there? No. Is there an ambulance there? No. Fire trucks?
we're okay. Yeah.
No. It's not. It's actually not an emergency. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Good.
We'll
Um,
survive. Yeah.
yeah, we'll survive. Tell me a little bit about your sales process right now. Are you actively going out to the customers, or are you just sitting back and reacting and doing some online marketing, or what are you doing in the way of that?
Um, we probably don't do enough going out to
Mm,
customers, but that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Right now, it's been more of a trying to cultivate the customers we have as opposed to finding a bunch of new stuff. It's hard when you don't know the customer, cold calling, knocking on doors at buildings still. Um, but it's the call and having the relationships.
Yeah, so we were talking about kind of where you're at now. How about where you guys started? What year was the company founded?
Oh, so our company, Adventure Lighting, was founded in 1980 by a guy named Ed McCullum, and he was the one that was the original founding member with in Nailed. My dad, Jack, who a lot of people in Nailed know, um, joined the company in 1988 ish, and like you mentioned at the top of this, started going to conventions pretty shortly thereafter. I believe we were in Orlando in 1992 or three. Um, and man, what a difference! We at that time I don't remember who it was. It might have been Osram had rented out MGM for just the nailed people, and like we got to ride all the rides. And as a 9, 10 year old, it was great. No lines,
Yeah.
and then all kinds of parties and that kind of stuff. It was certainly a different time back then. Um, but yeah, I've been to a handful of conventions, having a good time prior to joining in the lighting business. But I graduated college in '05, and then kind of went out and had a couple other jobs in distribution, but not in lighting distribution. And then came in and joined Adventure Lighting in December of '08. And then my dad, who always said he wanted to stick around and he loved the business, and I think he still does, but loved the business, wanted to stick around, uh, and enjoyed getting up in the morning and seeing customers. They got a place in Florida, and he decided he didn't really want to do any more of that. So they sold the business in 20 or January 2017 to me, 2016, something like that. And yeah, I've had it ever since. So yeah, we're plowing through.
And
It's
you don't
funny
have your dad. He doesn't show up anymore. Come in and read the newspaper, take office space. He's out.
You know, I think that was always kind of his plan originally. He was like, I'll just get up something to do, and I'll come in and BS with customers and read the paper and have a cup of coffee. And man, yeah, once they started going down to Florida, even when he was back here, he didn't want anything to do with it.
No.
Amen. And all he wanted was Florida. So that's worked out. So he plays golf 3 or 4 days a week, and I think he's given up pickleball, but he had that as a hobby for a while. They've created a nice little home down there, and they've got a lot of good friends. So for those that are interested, so
My dad still comes in every day, and
is that right?
yeah, well, about 4 days a week, and he takes a lot of the summer off, and he takes time off, but he comes in every day and he wants to sell light bulbs. It's actually really inspiring. I mean, for me, um, you know, he's like, he said to me like, "Hey, man, this is what I do. This is my thing." He loves working with customers. He loves the product. He gets excited when he gets look, Mike, I got a $10,000 order. You see that? $10,000, huh? What do you think of that? Oh, it sold it right off the floor, right off the showroom floor. There you go. See, 10 grand. There you go.
Now, does he get
There.
paid a commission on that?
Oh yeah. So yeah. He likes the money. Yeah,
Okay,
because he's 76 now, but he makes more than most 76-year-olds. Tell you that. That's for sure. He
that's
likes
awesome.
to. Yeah, he likes to spend money on on his grandkids and that. So
Oh, well, that's good.
yeah, he does well like that. But it's funny how but if he left, he might once you leave for a bit, maybe you leave, right? And you're like, okay, maybe there's something else in life. He's never left, my dad. He loves it, and I'm happy to have him here because someone I can trust around that keeps a sharp eye and is
Yeah, that's
there. You know what I
fantastic.
mean? Yeah, it's nice, and I like him. He's a nice guy, actually. He's fun to work with. So, yeah, but you know what the funny thing is? He takes it to a place where what's interesting about my dad is that he takes it to a place where he's he's very interested in teaching people about how to deal with difficult customers and still make money off them. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, that guy swore at me. I don't want to talk to him again." My dad's like, F you back." Actually, he'll swear right back at the whatever. But they all come back, and a lot of these contractors come back and buy lots of stuff for them. And they love dealing with my dad, and I don't know. It's funny how that goes. Like your dad left, and then he goes to Florida. He's like, "Well, actually, there's more to life than light bulbs." Maybe my dad should do that too. I don't know, but I'm glad to have him here. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can see where it'd be really nice to have him around. Whenever I'm down there, I get it. It's
Yeah,
you know, lay in the pool and have a drink. It's pretty nice.
for
So
sure, for sure. So let me ask you this: on the board, we're gonna set up something. There's a committee that I was on a round table about creating sustainable light fixtures, which
hmm
I thought was funny. The only reason I got on the committee was because I'm the host of the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, not because I'm a distributor, which I thought was strange. And I noticed that everyone on the committee, there was no other distributors or contractors on the committee. And I thought, well, why are you not asking people who sell replacement parts for light fixtures or install replacement parts for light fixtures on a creating sustainable lighting panel event conference? And so I want Neil to do that. Do you think that's something you could contribute to, Brian?
So when you say sustainable lighting, we're talking about the parts and pieces, the plastics, the metals,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what are we talking about?
Well,
hmm
what's
Okay.
funny is that the lighting industry has come to a place now, Greg and Brian, where they have forgotten that the lighting industry was totally replaceable 20 years ago. Like if you bought a 2x4 troffer, T8 troffer, there was a myriad of companies that could supply you with the parts to service that troffer, from the lens to the socket to the ballast to the lamp, everything. So the mechanical housing stayed there, and then the lamps were changed every 3 or 4 years. The ballast was changed every 5 to 10 years. The sockets got changed every 15 to 20 years, and the lens got changed when it needed to be
Right.
changed.
Right.
And they seem to have forgotten that the lighting industry already knew all this, and that there's still people like Brian Huff, the Greg Erichs of the world, Michael Colligans, Corey Schneiders, the Spencer Mileses of the world that are well aware of this. And I think as nailed, Greg, you chime in here too as well. I think as nailed distributors, we need to start to tell these mandarins in their white towers that this is not a new thing. We did this very well for years, and I was wondering, would you be wanting to be involved in a committee like that? I don't know how much time it would take, but I think it's something that Nail can really
Yeah,
contribute to.
sure. So I think sure. We've been saying for years the elephant in the room is going to be when you have to start replacing fixtures.
Bingo.
Um, and like you alluded to, for forever, everybody makes a 4 lamp ballast or a 3 lamp, whatever the case may be, and everybody knows how to replace that stuff. And throwing away an entire fixture is not an easy process nor a cheap one. Have you guys gotten into trying to find replacement drivers and programming them and that kind of stuff?
We've attempted, and we've been able to have a little bit of success. I know there's companies that have tunable drivers and all that are designed to work on
Hmm.
any other fixtures, but then you get into the form factor, and no, it doesn't fit in the fixture, the size of it, and so attempt is the right word. With success, some of the time,
Yeah,
usually not.
I'd say we're reasonably successful at it. Um,
Mhm.
we're probably the only people in town that can either a find a driver if it's not available, or have one that we can program and know what we're talking about when we do it. We've got a guy here that does a pretty good job of that, and it's going to be a big problem. I think that's ultimately the answer, going down the road. Not necessarily to make the fixtures out of more sustainable materials, but to rather think about being able to replace the parts. And I hope we're not too far gone in the fixtures that are already out that you can't do anything about it. But maybe in the future you'd be able to.
But does that, so what I always have an issue with replaceable drivers, and I never feel like I can explain this well enough, but maybe I
Hmm.
can today. I'm going to attempt again. Is the LED itself degrades in output over time. The driver is there to help it, light and everything. Now let's say it goes out after 6 years, and you put a new driver in. That LED chip still will light, but it might be have lost 40% of the light that it started with. Is that
Hmm.
a good adequate fixture anymore? Probably not, right? So what's the purpose of replacing the driver when the chip's already degraded? You got to replace the chip and the driver, and at that point, then you got to replace the fixture as it is right now.
Yeah, that's
I
an
felt like I
excellent point.
explained that well,
Hmm.
Well,
but I mean,
what I
so
was gonna
that's
yeah
why,
no what I was
yeah.
gonna say was one of the things that when I look at it, we we tell the contractor, like, if you install this and the LEDs don't work, you can't return it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the driver may be out, or the driver may not be performing properly, but the if the LEDs are not going to fire back to 100% or whatever you're expecting, then if it's been installed, it can't be returned. And sometimes if it's special order, you're buying all of them. So I think what the customer is expecting is when they change that driver, the light output from the fixture returns to 100%, and that's just not what's
Oh,
going to happen. That's
right.
not what's going to
So
happen.
when you guys install a job, do you measure after the fact the light output and then come back a few years later and tell them that it's
No,
degraded?
only an idiot would do that.
God, it sounds like a great idea, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot of rigmarole, but no, we haven't. We do not do that, and I haven't done that. But it's something that is a legitimate play. But again, you got to flip it and say, okay, I'm not a lighting person, and this guy's trying to
The
sell
lights
me
still
lighting. And he
work.
comes in, and yeah, the lights are on, dude. Like, I'm not going to listen to your little foot candle meter. I can see fine, and
Uh-huh.
that's what's going to happen
Uh-huh.
if you attempt it. So I like the idea as a lighting distributor all day.
Sure.
But
Well, I think at that point, if the lights, if you've got a driver that went bad and you can replace that driver and bring them back to where they were, even if it's not at 100% of the original output, I think you're still probably more sustainably off, certainly, and the customer's probably more happy than replacing a whole fixture.
So anybody that was banking on any kind of environmental credentials, like, come on,
Yeah.
you increase the the lifetime of the light source, and you decrease the life cycle of the light fixture. And that old light fixture was built in America, and that new light fixture was made in China and shipped across the entire Pacific Ocean, has no recyclable products in it. Like the environmental credentials of the lighting industry should take a serious hit. Although, yes, we've done a lot to save energy, but if you have to replace a light fixture every 5 to 10 years, how do you factor that back in as a negative number on those initial projections of carbon emissions or whatever
Yeah.
the metric is? Like, how do you say, like, oh yeah, so we had to drive a truck over there that used gas and burned gas, and there's a guy there, and then you have to melt down that metal again, and all this sort of stuff that you have to do, and we have to put a new
Right.
fixture in. Like, it has to be a negative. There's no way that it's a
The
net
cost associated
environmental
with it, yeah.
positive. No,
Hmm.
I mean, even the, like, what, so you take the cost, for sure it's a cost negative.
Well, an environmental cost, yes.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
environmentally, it has to be a negative, a net negative,
Hmm.
which would be like complete, what do they call that? Cognitive dissonance for the lighting industry. Like total cognitive dissonance. Everything you did, yeah, that wasn't so good.
Well, okay, so then what's the answer, right? Going back and selling fluorescent tubes? Like,
No, I think
you know,
the answer is to mimic the form factors of original lamps. Like all the innovation, the most innovation in the lighting industry has come in T-LEDs. Like the
mhm.
fastest iterations and the quickest innovation is because you're not allowed to change this form factor. So spend all your time innovating within this space. It's like a Shakespearean sonnet. You have to write
Sure.
the lines of the poem within these rules. And so that's where all the innovation has gone crazy, is within T-LEDs. And the fixtures have been good, but they all have to be at 2x4s, right? So there's something about a mechanical form factor being set which directs the innovation productively in the areas that matter. If there are no set form factors, then innovation is wasted, or time at the manufacturer is wasted on setting form factors. Like the lighting industry used to do very well saying a T8 ballast has to be 10.5 inches long. It has to have 4 screw holes at these locations and this many wires coming out of it if it's going to power in a fluorescent lamp. After that, go to town. Like
Mhm.
what they and make what you want. So if we're going to make sustainable lighting, where distributors can then do what adventure lighting does, primarily since 1980 or 82, whenever it was started, was we have to be able to interchange manufacturers to service our customers. So many nailed members would get a call for F32 T8, 741/Eco Sylvania, and switch it to a different brand, which performed the same way. And if people want to make sustainable light fixtures, we have to set the form factors and the performance and make it a standard, and then leave it for a certain number of years before it's reviewed. Otherwise, distributors don't have a play really long run. It's all project work, Brian.
Yeah, I just don't see the manufacturers, being excited to jump on board with something like that because they can carve out their niche and, say, sorry, you have to stick with us in a job that's already sold
Well,
or,
that's what's
whatever the
happening.
case may be.
When I was on this
Right.
panel, their conclusion was that every building that's out there should be assigned to a manufacturer, and that manufacturer should be forced to service. Like, I hate to say this, Nigel, I love you, bud, and everybody at Rico Light. You guys are great. It was a great panel, and Ray and everybody on the panel, but you guys clearly do not understand how lighting fixtures are maintained in the field. If you go to a big commercial tower in Des Moines, Minneapolis, or Toronto, and you started looking at the ballast brands, you probably could count 24 ballast brands in the first 400 fixtures, and 3 dozen lamp brands, if you're being honest. So I'm curious as to what you think, Brian, that should Nailed, you know, do something, or Greg as well, answer this question. It's a conversation. The pressure's not on
Uh-huh.
Brian. Should Nailed do something to say, hey, White Tower guys, slow down for a little minute. We know how to maintain light fixtures. We're in this business. The government doesn't have to pay for this. We can do this and pay taxes. Should we not out of line? Should we step out in line and say, listen to us?
Well, I think so. So who's on this panel? It's
Well,
specifically
it's a
manufacturers.
European panel. It's in
Okay.
Britain, but everything like this with standards starts in Europe and then gets on a boat and crosses the ocean, right? And so
Right.
this idea that, oh, we need to have a circular economy and we need to extend the life cycle of light fixtures to 20 or 30 years. That's what we had. I mean, how many times did you see a light fixture go from T12 to T8, maybe T5, and then to LED?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And imagine if the government started assigning buildings to manufacturers. You have to be able to replace the fixtures at that building. That's a disaster for us.
Well, and it's a big problem, I think, for the end user as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think costs can get out of hand. There's no competition in the mix, and that's an issue.
Right.
But yeah, that would certainly be an issue for us as well. I would certainly like, not necessarily me per se, but us to have a voice or a seat at the table. Certainly.
Yeah, Greg, what do you take? What's your take from all that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we're the people that are on the street dealing with the people that use the lighting, right? So
Sure,
get the distributor involved and the people that know the most, and even like a Nelmco and contractors, people like that
sure.
are dealing with the lighting, not the people that are making it and seeing it after it's done. So yeah, we definitely need to have a say in that if that's going to have any legs and go anywhere.
It's an existential issue for Nailed, like for Nailed members. Like if the government made a policy saying all manufacturers are responsible to maintain and manage their light fixtures in the field for 40 years or 25 years, or guarantee they're operating in the field for that time period. That's an existential threat to what nail distributors do.
What what would the what would the government intervention say that the manufacturer has to do at that point? Like, they can't do that for free.
Yeah, exactly. This is all the build back better stuff, bud. Build back better. Build back. So cut out the nail distributor. It should be called cut out nail distributors better. I mean, this is what it is. The people are sitting around thinking up of ways to reduce carbon emissions, to reduce dependence on oil or whatever. And this is the
Right.
kind of conversations they're having. And it's leaking into the lighting industry. It's leaking into different industries. And people are saying, how can we create the circular economy for lighting? Oh, I know what we should do. We should make extend the producer responsibility, EPR, extend the producer responsibility forward into the field so that they're responsible for their deployed light fixtures in the field to make sure that they're maintainable moving forward. To me, that's called ANSI. To me, that's called NEMA. We already have that.
Yeah.
Where are
Yeah.
these guys? Let's go. Like, where have you been? How come you're not making standards? So, but if this kind of policy comes forward, I think Nailed, and this has been a bit of a Nailed show, but I think Nailed has to step out and say, whoa, hang on a second here. You guys don't know anything about maintaining light fixtures. And the problem is not with maintenance moving forward. The problem is with the production at the beginning stages. You know?
Yeah, I think you're totally onto something there. It's it's going to be hard to let that business just walk out the door and leave the manufacturer in charge of that. Um, with all that said, I'm not sure the manufacturer is capable of handling, managing all those buildings. Uh, if it is indeed, on a per building basis, I'm not sure they'd be capable of doing something like that.
It's a ridiculous proposition.
or if they'd even want to.
It's
for
a
that
ridiculous proposition. Yes.
Yeah.
Like it confounds from a lighting distributor perspective. It's like, that's ridiculous. They could never do it anyway.
Yeah.
And but
In
the fact
that
is,
sense, it's like, yeah, no way. But
but if the policy and the laws and Build Back Better and all this sort of stuff happens, and you start to see the movement on this, the manufacturers will eat this up. That's for sure.
anything seems possible. Sure.
Oh no, they want this for sure, because they'll just sell people new fixtures all the time. Like it'll be an exemption thing. So I think as nailed members, I think what we should do is put out a couple statements, maybe an open letter or two, Greg, about how piss a few people off. We've done it in the past, about how this is a really bad idea. Maybe you guys should go back to the NEMAs and the ANSIs that already exist in ULs and talk to them about making mechanical form factors. But Brian, welcome to the board. I know you've been on before. It's your second.
I had a short stint.
You had a little stint. Welcome back. It's a advisory board, not a working board, and we're glad to have you on here, brother.
Awesome. Well, it's good to hear from you guys.
right,
good
man.
to see your faces.
You too.
Hopefully in person soon. But all you peeps out there, if you're ready for the revolution, remember, tuning in 2021 is like dimming in 1969. Greg Ehrich, what do you got? It's energyfocus.com with their tunable lighting systems.
We're talking about the fixtures and not having to replace them. You don't have to do that with this, and you can make it all fancy and new with the Unfocus. Keep your fluorescent fixture, bypass the ballast, change the tubes, change the switch on the wall. No rewiring needed. Just change, and it's ready. Dimmable, color tuning, flicker-free, all the fun stuff that Energy Focus brings.
The originals. Yeah. Love you, Jimmy Tunable. You're the best. And, of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to NALD.org. If you haven't joined now, Brian's not going to let you in because he gets a vote on whether you get in or not. So you better send him a box of chocolates or something, maybe a six-pack. Other than that, folks, if you made it to the end with us here, I know I speak on behalf of Brian at Adventure Lighting and everybody in Nailed. Love you listeners out there. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.